Vlog on a blog. Tomorrow's news today. Get to the truth. Listen, learn, live. Visit us at yadaya.com.
Welcome to the vlog on the vlog. Good to have you here, Roger, Kevin. As always, we begin with life aboard a carrier. There are those who probably believe that because a carrier is a monumentally large ship, and that it is exceedingly high tech, and that it costs $13 billion to build, that the Navy's top officers, admirals, would be aboard the aircraft carrier, and that this would be the best duty that a seaman could ever have. And the truth is exactly the opposite of that. What the Navy came to recognize is that submarines not only carry death for the entire planet, and that submarines, boomers, are the only surviving implement of war that America has made that will survive any conflict with the United States or with Russia. And that life aboard is constrained. You're put into a very small tube, that the best of the Navy serve on submarines, including by far the best officers. That it is the high draw. The naval officers and enlisted all know it. The best food, the best people to be around, the highest quality service is aboard one of those submarines. The opposite of the submarine, of course, is the aircraft carrier. And there are 5,000 sailors on an aircraft carrier, and they are the worst of the worst. There are so many of them, and they're spread out over such a large area, the Navy thinks that they can get by with the scum of the service, and that's who is deployed on an aircraft carrier. There's also this idea that you're going off to sea. What a grand adventure. No, that is an ugly tin can. Of the 5,000 sailors on that tin can, fewer than 500 of them ever see the light of day. The rest spend all of their time in dark, cramped, stinky quarters without so much as a porthole. If you see a hole in the side, it isn't for people to have sunlight. No, that hole in the side is for weapons portholes. Mm-hmm. No, they never see the light of day. And the food's the worst. Your showers are timed. Your toilet is common. You have to sleep in far worse quarters than would be considered humane in a prison. Mm-hmm. You're triple bunked. And dormitory style rooms with other stinky men that have been limited in the numbers of showers they can take and the hygiene that they are given access to. It is a horrible situation for a day, for a week, for a month. And they've been stuck out there now in the Arabian Sea for 9 months. Mm-hmm. The noise is overwhelming. The ship creaks. And after 9 months, they've run out of everything on the Abraham Lincoln. Soap, toilet paper, decent food. It's so bad that according to the military's own publications, over 20 sailors have tried to commit suicide. Recently, a number of them jumped into the sea. I have done everything in my power to advise anyone who would listen, do not enlist in the U.S. military. In the Navy, you're treated like crap. You have no freedom at all. The life is miserable. And your life means nothing.
Mhm.
You aren't protecting America's freedoms. You're depriving yourself of your own. This is horrid. And the man subjecting them to all of this is Bone Spurs, who got 6 deferments from the Vietnam War. And I want you to know that 9 months is nothing. Because as we will continue to discuss this war with Iran, as I foretold 2 years ago, has no end.
Mhm.
It cannot be negotiated. It cannot be settled. It cannot be won. And it cannot even be abandoned. This is the worst possible situation. It cannot be abandoned. It cannot be continued. It cannot be won. And there's no way even to surrender. Literally, there is no way out. And every option is either horrific or worse. What do you think there, Roger? To rough an assessment?
What you say is absolutely correct. I'd just like to add a couple of things to that.
Please.
I've never been in the military, but I know people that have, and I've hired people that have, and I've talked to them about this very thing. There's something called hot sheeting. That's
Yes.
where the same bunk is assigned to 3 guys, each have your own sheet, and you rotate into the bunk to sleep in it. So you're sleeping in the guy's sweat, his urine, and whatever's going on there, you're sleeping in that. I've worked on boats offshore and spent time out there in the accommodation there. And I can only imagine it's quite a bit better, but it's still poor accommodations, even there.
Yes.
And the food is, it depends on where you go, but the food, it can be good, it can be bad. But there's one thing that I learned offshore, and that is when you're on a boat or a barge or a vessel doing work out there, there's one rule you must never break. You must never, ever piss off the cook. because he's the one that runs the boat. The captain just steers it. Cook controls it. And if you make him mad at you, it's going to be a miserable time.
Yeah, I would say that food on a vessel like this starts off as good. It then goes to tolerable, and after a month deployment without going ashore, it gets to intolerable. After 9 months, it's inedible. That's where they are. Now, do they have means of resupplying it? Say yes, but even then, the resupply ships really have nowhere to go because America is completely boxed out of where it had all of its bases in the Persian Gulf. So they've got nowhere to go. Oh, this is criminal. What is happening to those who had such poor guidance that they believed the propaganda and they joined the military, and they're committing war crimes and they're acting like pirates and they're being treated like crap. There was a difference, however, between a pirate and what someone serving in the Navy today, and that is that pirates had free will. They actually got to vote on where they would go, what they would attack, everything about their lives, even how they split the loot. In the Navy, you have absolutely no rights of any kind. This notion that the military provides freedom is the antithesis of the truth. It is the greatest robber of freedom in our world.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're a pirate now without the pirate booty. There's no upside.
Right.
You're
Or
a
the
slave on
pirate
a
freedom,
ship
or the
is what
freedom
you
of
are.
being a pirate. You know, you're in a pirate vessel. You could tell the elected captain of the pirate vessel, you know, I've decided I don't want to be a pirate anymore. Next time we go ashore, I'm going to resign, and that's fine.
Right. The other,
But now
I
you're-
saw last night.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw last night there was a report, and it did come from an Iranian news agency about, and it's what I think spurred all this jumping overboard news that we're getting from different press organizations. Is that there was a knife fight in the galley that there were 7
was.
sailors that okay.
Yes.
I
And
I
others
haven't
jumping
seen
aboard.
that.
Actually, when I saw it first, it was from an Iranian news source, and I said, "Okay, I'm not going to even report this. I would like to talk about life on a carrier because I know a lot about it, but I'm not going to report it because it's an Iranian source." And then I saw it next presented by mainstream media, and then I realized that everyone was quoting the same source, which is the military's own magazines and newspapers. It was the U.S. military who wrote about it. The reason that the Iranians picked up the story is because the U.S. military reported the story.
Mhm.
No, this story is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, and there's no and that's why you jump off a ship and try to commit suicide, because this is not like a swim in the ocean. First of all, you don't swim in the ocean this far out. It's not a pleasant thing, right?
No, they're a thousand. They're 1,000 miles offshore. They have to be 1,000 miles offshore because America could not handle the humility of having an aircraft carrier sunk. And if they get any closer to Iran, Iran will sink them. So they stand 1,000 miles offshore. No, you can't swim 1,000 miles. It's
Right.
you jump off that ship and it's suicide.
Well,
you know,
and the
there's-
other thing is, I think it's like 40 stories. I mean, that's terminal velocity to the water for most places. You're not just stepping out into the water like you would on your yacht or something. You're dropping from someplace generally very high up. This is, yeah.
Yeah, I've done it. I used to compete on water ski races, and I have fallen at over 100 miles an hour. And what it does to your skin, the way it opens it up, it'll tear muscles and skin and send you away and leave bones exposed. The water at terminal velocity is unbelievably hard. There's essentially no give. You bounce off of it and it tears you to ribbons. Yeah, at that height, you would reach terminal velocity, 32 feet a second. Mhm.
And there's one
Yep.
more thing about the ships out there is that anything on the water, anything that floats on the water creates shade underneath it. If you want to go
Yes.
fishing offshore, you look for structure. That's where the fish
Yes.
are going to be. So these ships create a lot of shade.
Yes.
That brings in a lot of fish, a lot of predatory fish. If someone were to hit the water, they wouldn't last very long. Sharks would come in.
No,
pretty
they
quick.
wouldn't. No, this is a bad situation. This is. I feel sorry for the young men and women who were foolishly beguiled into joining the military, and for them now, there is literally no hope. No,
Yeah.
this war will not end. This war will be ongoing 7 years from now when we bring it all to an end, but it won't be by man's doing. There is literally no solution to this war. It's one of the reasons I've spoken so aggressively towards Israel and their current government, to saying that when you did this the first time, you created a mess that you will never be able to get out of. And when you did it the second time, it's over. This is a fait accompli. We knew Israel was entering the time of trouble. We pronounced it, that it began on the 22nd of May of this year on Shabuah. And this is where they are now. And I know how this escalates because I read the prophets. There will be millions of mujahideen that march out of Iran into Israel, and there'll be no stopping them. It will be Alaska flood times 1,000. All right.
They're trying. They're trying.
Palestine, verb. Taking something that isn't yours and shamelessly pretending it belongs to you while playing the victim. I Palestined this nest. Well, it's at least a step in the right direction. But let's be clear. Palestine is a vulgar ethnic slur, and it is an insult to history. Anybody who uses it, and the sad thing is that returning Jews used that term because that's what the British referred to it based upon the vulgar slur of Hadrian. Anybody who uses it at any time, including Netanyahu and Israeli politicians and the IDF, the Israeli media, anybody who refers to Palestine and Palestinians is cursing and condemning Israel. Told you so. Eli Afriat is one of 5 or 6 pro-Israeli posters that showed back up this morning on my X feed. Maybe Grok listens to his critics because, I was protesting vociferously that those I chose to follow, I never see, and those that I chose not to follow, I see all the time. And all of a sudden, there were 7 or 8 of the pro-Israeli accounts back in my feed. This one is one of them. And my response to this is, I told you so, 2 years ago. We have the UAE now flying to Tehran to cut a deal with the Iranians. And the reason they're doing that is they realize that they made their bed with the Americans, and the Americans can no longer be trusted. And there isn't a single Gulf state that is capable of defending itself, even with huge military investments. Why? Because the Muslims that live in those states are not willing to fight and not capable of fighting. And they are not capable of operating the equipment. So they have zero defense. And so they're egomaniacal thugs with flags, pretending that private estates that are protected with American blood, had been protected with American blood, gives them some autonomy in this world, some credibility in this world, and it doesn't anymore. They've been exposed, naked, bare, including Mohammed bin Salman, who had the 7th or 8th largest military in the world and never fired a shot in self-defense, not one. And so they know they're in real trouble because America's never coming back to those bases. And even if America were allowed to come back and would rebuild those bases, which is not going to happen, America could be relied upon to the extent that it was relied upon the last time, which was when America decided to attack Iran. It told everybody in those bases to leave those bases. They abandoned their client. And there's no purpose in the petrodollar, and somebody saying, I'll sell oil in dollars and I'll reinvest those dollars in U.S. treasuries to keep up the petrodollar Ponzi scheme, if you're not getting the protection that was promised as a result of that scheme. And that protection is gone. And they're now in a position where Mr. A-hole there, that is a money-grubbing asshole, talking about the guy on the right. The guy on the left is probably missing an arm and a leg, and his face has been mutilated, and it's a tragedy what has happened to him, but he had very poor parenting. Both of them represent an exceedingly disgusting religion. And the guy on the left, as a Persian, has a nation that's capable of fighting, capable of being inventive. They invent and manufacture all their own weapon systems. The guy on the right knows nothing. He would be a goat herder if it wasn't for the oil and gas underneath their lands and the Western alliance that created the petrodollar system to enrich him and protect him. But he is not much more than a goat herder.
Yeah, it's typical Muslim ideology. It's if I can't kill you now, I make a deal with you so that maybe I can kill you later. That's what's happening here.
Well, these are Muslims and Muslims.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So they're really not as interested in killing each other as they are making certain that their interpretation of Islam, man on the left, is dominant and that they're not threatened again. And it was the man on the right who doesn't give two shits about Islam.
Mhm.
Islam for him is the same thing it is for MBS. It's a means for him to claim that he has his God's divine right to rule over his people and be a money-grubbing thug and kill anybody he wants. They use the religion. The guy on the left actually believes the religion. And so they're in a position where they are having a dick swinging contest as to whose interpretation of the religion is going to prevail. And there is no real meaningful difference between Shia and Sunni Islam, other than whose dick is bigger than the other. I mean, that's it. And so the only thing that separates these two buffoons is that the guy on the left's ethnicity and culture is Persian, and they still value education. And there's something about the Persians that enables them to still think, even though they've endured 14 centuries of Islamic hell. And so this is an annihilation. And if the guy on the right even wants to live, he has to make a deal with the guy on the left. That's it. Because there's no one else no one on earth can protect him. No one. He can't protect himself. His people can't help. No one on earth, not any of the other Arab Gulf nations, none of them can protect themselves or this Gulf fiefdoms that they have created. They are completely vulnerable, and there is no protection of any kind. When this war continues, if they don't make a deal with Iran, they'll have no water treatment, desalination plants. They'll have no gasification facilities. They'll have no ports. They'll have no electricity. They will go back to herding goats.
Yeah, and there's no doubt in my mind that this is them acting they're the kings acting in their own self-interest. They're not doing this for the nation of UAE, right? I mean,
but there is no nation. There is no nation.
The fiefdom.
There's no nation of Saudi Arabia. There's no nation of UAE. There's no nation of Kuwait. These are personal estates with flags. They were set up by the Brits because they bribed the Wahhabis to go attack the Ottoman Empire and in World War I. And the Brits have never been good at understanding the consequences of their actions. So these are private estates with flags where the security services for the money-grubbing goons is provided with American blood. And that blood ran out. And it's never coming back. Now, there is a bigger issue here. And that's the issue that I started the show saying, that the U.S. war with Iran has no end. Trump actually can't leave and declare victory. He can't do that. Because if he does that, then all pretense of the petrodollar is gone. Then every one of the Arab nations have to do a deal with the Persians. Every single one. This won't be the first. It won't be the last. Every single one of them will do a deal with Tehran. Mm-hmm. The United States will be completely isolated from the region because the deal with Tehran will be, you want us to avoid destroying you, then you disassociate entirely in every possible way from the United States. You never sell any oil or gas denominated in dollars again. You completely obliterate all of America's bases. You kick out all Americans. That is the price. You either pay that price or we destroy you. Mm-hmm. That is the deal. There is no other deal. Now, once that deal is imposed, that's the deal that happens when America leaves. This idea like the Houthis are going to surrender and run. Well, this is Iran. You can't do that deal because the moment that deal is done, so is the petrodollar. And with America being $40 trillion in debt and no takers on its bonds, the U.S. economy craters immediately. Without the petrodollar, the reserve currency Ponzi scheme is over. And that's the immediate and direct, unavoidable consequence of walking out of this war. So you can't leave. And unfortunately, you can't win. There's no way to win. We've been doing, the United States has been doing the same thing for 5 months and gotten exactly the same results. Every time the United States ups the ante and bombs, it gets worse for everybody surrounding Iran. Try more of the same is pure insanity. So the only thing the United States can do is deploy troops. And there is a significant buildup of U.S. personnel now in hotels and the Arab fiefdoms with flags. And Trump is definitely considering invading Krog Island, not knowing that this is like Kennedy going into Vietnam with 500 troops that became 500,000 with 58,000 dead, except for the fact that Iran isn't Vietnam. It's infinitely worse. Trump's only response at this point in this war is to do one of two things. Neither one are going to work. Both are going to make the situation worse. One is he ups the ante and he invades Krog Island, which means then he will have to invade the coast of Iran to protect the troops on Krog Island, which means that he has to invade the Zagros Mountains, which means that he needs to push beyond them to keep the resupply and to keep the drones and everything else from firing further behind. And then he's in a country the size of Western Europe without any supplies, without even water, and no supply route because he can't get in and out of the Strait of Hormuz. And Americans will die and be POWs, and it's obliteration of the United States military. That is its Waterloo, except there ain't no water. And the option of surrender, he blew. He had a surrender agreement, a memorandum of understanding. It was a surrender agreement. He can't even go back to it now. He destroyed his only way out, which was surrender. So this leaves him with the ploy that they haven't begun to talk about yet, but will occur, which is the betrayal of Israel. To do the Neville Chamberlain thing and toss Iran, Israel as a prize. But that won't work. It'll work as well as giving Adolf Hitler the high ground of Czechoslovakia. It will lead directly to World War III. So that's it. He's got nothing. He's going to do my guess is here that what Trump's going to do over the months between now and the midterms, since invading Krog Island creates a bloodbath for him, trying to do so before the midterms would be even more insane than he probably is. And he can't sign an agreement because the Iranians are no longer negotiating and will not negotiate again. And so the only thing that he can do is pretend to keep that blockade going and just walk away and not talk about it anymore. And Americans who have the retention of a goldfish swimming around in a bowl will forget about it and they'll go on to the next subject. They'll be, into the great catering cart caper, and we'll forget about it. But you need to understand that just because Americans forgot about it doesn't resolve the petrodollar, which then destroys the entire economy. And so there is no more America. So this is that mess. This is why I begged Israel, don't do this thing.
Well, what I see in this, you've talked about it before and written about it. It's going to be an all-Islamic invasion of Israel in the future. And these guys talking together now, maybe semi-friends, semi-enemies, they're going to be coalescing to a large army with one purpose:
Yeah,
the destruction of Israel.
Yeah, they won't actually be, with the exception of Iran. Iran can marshal 3 to 4 million men and women, even, but mostly men, as a military force. They can arm them, equip them, uniform them, transport them, and provide the aerial cover for them. Iran can do all of those things. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, Qatar, they can't do any of those things. And the slaves that they have building those countries, they're not going to fight and die for them. But there are young people in those countries who will jump at the opportunity to engage in the great jihad. And so the numbers of people, the troops will swell, although the Iranians aren't much going to need them or want them, because all the others, they're undisciplined. They require food and transportation. They're hard to manage. They don't contribute anything, and they're certainly not needed. So I don't know how many people join them on the way in. I think they'll have significant Shia Muslims that join them as they march through Western Iran, which we now call Iraq. And there'll be some that will join them as they go through Syria. But and I'm sure they'll be joined by Hezbollah as they enter Israel from the northeastern side. But they don't really need much help. They will likely get a bunch of Egyptians that will want to play jihad too, but they will come from a different direction. It's going to be 4 million jihadists, by the way, Israel. All right, Glenn Deason is a fairly decent guy. Now, I've told you that Pop, the guy that we've listened to from now and again, is charismatic as your grandmother's bathroom wallpaper. He is the ultimate monotone. If you can make it through his opening soliloquy before he introduces a guest, you have done well. And Alistair Cook, when you listen to him talk, that is worse than watching paint dry. But he is he's fairly erudite, and Glenn is exceedingly well educated. He's a brilliant fellow. And so I do, on occasion, listen to his show, although some of the times you just go and you say, oh, God, the guest you have is so anti-Semitic. You just need to stop this. This is not working anymore. Well, in this particular case, the message is that this is the end of diplomacy. And that's the theme that I want to keep on reinforcing in this program. There are no more deals. Nowhere in the world. There is no more diplomacy. Deals and diplomacy are dinosaurs. They're relics of a bygone era. Russia knows that it cannot negotiate a deal with the United States because of Trump, and cannot negotiate a deal with Europe because of its leaders. And so there will be no settlement in the Ukraine proxy war against Russia. The Ukrainians have passed legislation that says that there'll be no more dealing with Donald Trump. Now, that should not be taken as they want to kill him. This whole catering cart caper with Trump in the Turkish food cart. And we'll talk more about that later. When asked, Arachi was asked, was there a legitimate Iranian assassination attempt against Trump? He says, are you crazy? The most effective weapon we have against the United States is Trump. He's doing more damage to the United States than we could possibly do. No, we're not trying to get rid of Trump. We're just not going to talk to him, but we're not going to get rid of him. Are you crazy? No. But diplomacy is gone. We have gone back to the days of war. We're in like 1910 Europe. The powder keg's about to be ignited in World War I, and the idiots are so stupid that they'll usher in World War II. But now it's World War III. It's the only difference. So the day of the deal is done. There will be no deals. The deal of sending actual trained diplomats is over. Right? I think there's two of them left in the world. One is named Arachi, and Lavrov of Russia is the other. They're it. It certainly isn't little Marco.
Oh, yeah. China's setting pretty good, too. They are right in the middle of it without having to do anything, to fire a shot,
Yeah.
to do anything.
Yeah, I don't know really how to quite ascertain Chinese diplomats, and the reason is because they don't stand out individually.
Mhm.
They aren't men educated and equipped to convey a message who are comfortable on their own feet. As Rocky, brilliant, articulate, well-educated, he's got the JFK Kennedy-esque quick quip for everything. I mean, the Iranians can send him out and say, "You're our guy." Putin can send out Lavrov and say, "You're our guy." I mean, you know your craft. You're very careful. You're a professional. I don't see that so much in China. I would agree with you that China's in the driver's seat. What you see in China is a little different. What you see in China is actually very little talk.
Mhm.
It's all do.
Mhm.
And what China has done is taken over every country of Central and South America. And in every one of those countries, China is either their largest trading partner or their second largest. China does deals. China presents economic programs that are mutually beneficial. They say, we have the expertise and the funds to build your airport, to build your railway, to build your water treatment plants, to build your roadway systems, to advance your ability to mine or to extract oils or gas and to transport them. We have the ability to do all of that. We have the know-how to do it. We're the best in the world at it. And we have the funds to finance it. And so we'll make you a deal. We'll come in and do those things, and you can finance them on a fair interest rate. And if you pay off that note, they're yours under the agreement. We can continue to use them with you. And if you don't, they're ours, and we will use them as we see fit. It is a fair deal for everybody, no matter how the payments go. And it has put China in a position where it is the de facto economic leader of Central and South America and almost all of Africa and Asia. So China does. They don't so much talk. Iran, Arachi and Lavrov, they're masters of words. China's not a master of words. They're a master of building.
Well, and the other side of diplomacy is it takes two to tango. So when you have these idiots in the UE and then you have Satan as Donald Trump, it's very hard to be diplomatic whenever you can't find a tango partner that you can be diplomatic with, right? I mean,
listen, Russia did everything they could to resolve the differences between NATO, Europe, and the United States without war. And they found that they had no diplomatic negotiating partner. And Iran did everything they could also to negotiate and to resolve these issues, and to found that they had no negotiating partner. So negotiation is dead because the United States is incapable of negotiating. I mean, the only solution right now for the United States is to do two things that are not in its nature and never been in its nature. The United States is lost on all grounds. It is no longer the hegemon of the world. It's no longer the economic engine of the world. It's no longer even the military leader of the world. It's no longer the leader of the free world. It is no longer anything except in its own delusions.
Well, it's a consumer base. That's how everybody sees us. We're a consumer
Yeah,
base.
but
Everybody
when your consumer economy is based on debt, and you have no one to buy your debt, and the Ponzi scheme of the reserve currency is gone, you're not a consumer anymore. There's nothing.
Well,
And so the only thing that America could do is to close all of its overseas bases, 88 of them, essentially shut down its military, go from spending $1.5 trillion to spending nothing, to shut down the CIA and the NSA, to do what China did 40 years ago, and that is implement enterprise zones. Give men and women the opportunity and the responsibility to build things again. It's enterprise zones, free enterprise, no socialist restrictions of any kind. And then to tell the world, let's all meet in a neutral place. China, Russia, Iran, the United States, other stakeholders, India. Let's all meet in a neutral place and let's come up with a new way of getting along without war, where we all have needs, we all have responsibilities, but no one uses their currency as a weapon. No one threatens anybody else anymore. That requires a humility that America does not have. And it requires wisdom that America does not have. So America can't do what it has to do to survive. And the sooner it were to do that, the less painful it would be, but America doesn't have the wherewithal, which means that we were right. This is the time of trouble. America is going to falter and die.
yeah. Well, they don't gain that humility. They don't gain that incentive until they hit rock bottom. No one changes for change's sake alone. Change is always,
But America doesn't even change when it hits rock bottom. There will be some Yehudim, perhaps, and maybe some relative number of Goyim who will fit into a remnant in the end. But America's death is imminent, going to be violent, extreme, and self-induced.
Yep.
There is no savior. You know, when Yeshaya wrote about America, you can go to the next slide. Go ahead and go to the next slide. When Yeshaya wrote about America in the 18th chapter of Yeshaya, defining us egotistically, our projection of a military force, our interference in everybody else's affairs, the tendency to be drugged as a people, he was right. He was right. America is exactly as it was painted by the prophet Isaiah. It's despicable. This is in response to Trump's pronouncement yesterday, where he said, I think it was day before yesterday, was when Bobblehead Girl, have you seen the video of Bobblehead Girl?
Uh-huh.
You know, she's one with a little scarf around her neck, and the hair that comes in. She looks like a bot. And she is the highlight right now of social media. And she's going to be the new press secretary, they say. Bobblehead girl. And you can actually buy her for your dashboard. You know, you can buy it, but she comes in a bobblehead form. Perfect, right? People are having fun. Who knows if she's a real person or not? I don't even know. But in that press conference, Trump, who fell asleep and then farted himself back awake, and RFK, who is proposing a ban on vaccines based upon the long proven false reporting on the MMR vaccine, which has been completely discredited. So he is trying to make certain that the babies that are not killed by the Marxists in the 10 states that have up to birth abortions are killed because they no longer have vaccines. and he's sitting there. His hands are just going like this. I mean, he's as big a mess on the outside as he is on the inside with his brain worm that causes him not to be able to speak. And Trump farting himself to sleep, and then you have bobblehead girl. In that same disastrous experience in the Oval Office, he made this statement: the U.S. has total control over the Strait of Hormuz. I think we'll keep it. Correct. Our naval blockade is being called by everyone a wall of steel. That's everybody in his head.
Everyone calls it that.
Yep. And Iran can do nothing about it. Iran is all talk and no action. Actually, Iran is no talk and all action. Mm-hmm. The bully of the Middle East is no longer. You're right. You've had to leave. You've been booted out. But this little chart I thought would be an interesting way of underscoring the idiocy of Trump's statement. That downward plunge of the red line, that was Trump's doing. That's the transit through the Strait of Hormuz. Yep, you're really doing a great job, pal. Keep it up. The whole world will starve.
We missed the very end of the post. The bully of the Middle East no longer. Praise be to Allah. Oh my. How did that go over with MAGA? I mean,
praise be to Allah.
He'll say anything.
Praising himself. Boy, the demons that are running around in that man's brain. Oh my. Satan incarnate. There you go. Praise be to Allah.
Yeah, this looks. I don't know what these numbers on the side are. Is this 100%, 20%? I don't know what those.
No,
those are.
It's the tonnage.
Okay, tonnage.
I think it's tonnage. It's volume, so it'd be tonnage.
Okay.
It could be numbers of actual, because that number is also, if you look at 100 ships per day, that was between 1 and 200 ships per day was kind of the average transit in the Gulf. So it could be that it's tonnage per day or it's ships per day, but I think it's tonnage. Doesn't matter which one it is. It just shows that it was pretty consistent going through the Strait of Hormuz and in 2025 and come 2026, nothing.
I would be curious to compare it to the 70s, because the Strait of Hormuz was the issue under Jimmy Carter, wasn't it? That there was no oil coming out at that time, and that was the oil embargo.
There was.
It was a little different.
The embargo was of the United States for the 2 wars that the Muslims lost. The 6 Days War in '67 and the Yom Kippur War in 72, 73. Those 2 wars that the Muslims lost pissed the Muslims off. So they decided that they would retaliate by cutting off their own arm and having a fuel embargo for the United States. It didn't turn out very well for them or for anybody. And certainly America should have learned that, that this petrodollar scheme that Nixon had created just 10 years earlier was a real loser. And so it was just an overall embargo of the United States as a response to the 2 wars that the Muslims lost in trying to destroy Israel. Yeah, this was 2 months ago. 2 months ago. The deal, capital deal, because he's a dealer, with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete. Praise be to Allah. Congratulations to all. Allahu Akbar. I hereby authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz. Couldn't even read his own agreement, where it gave the Iranians total control over the strait to do as they wanted. And simultaneously herewith authorize the immediate removal of the United States naval blockade, which, by the way, still remains. Ships of the world, start your engines. Let the oil flow. President Donald J. Trump.
I can just see the pom-poms. I mean,
And yeah, diaper bag girl Ava Braun would have hers. We would have had KKK Barbie back in that day. She would have had hers, but she evidently got pissed off as Trump choosing to sneak out with diaper bag girl and his personal bottom wiping valet, and leaving her and the other White House staff members to die on Air Force One as decoys. She didn't think that was fun, so she resigned yesterday.
right?
Anyway, yeah, the pom-poms would have been going, and fireworks, and yeah, this was right before, not too far before the 4th of July and the big 250th anniversary. Oh, he was so proud of. And then then he signed the agreement in the Treaty of Versailles Part 2, and then we read it. We went through every point of that 14 points of the Memorandum of Understanding, and it was a surrender document. Yes, got nothing, gave up everything. And so Trump welched on his own deal the following day. Donald J. Trump. I listened to a little bit of this. I don't want to put anybody through the same agony.
No.
The two blondes that are in the position over the EU are two of the most pathetic, disgraceful, ignorant, irrational, immoral people on the planet. It just constantly reminds me of why God says, I regret having created humans. She is speaking of Hiroshima and blaming Russia for Hiroshima. And she says, how dare the Russians threaten us with nuclear annihilation, and, considering what they did in Hiroshima.
Russians didn't have a bomb at that time.
No, really?
The only reason it got used is because there was only one people on the planet that had a bomb. That's the only reason it got used.
And they only had two. That was all they could make.
They were trying to make a third one because they wanted to deploy. They didn't want the Japanese to surrender. They wanted to deploy a third one. And no, there's the lack of understanding of history is one of the great disgraces in the world today. Complete ignorance of history.
Denial of the Holocaust all comes out of the EU. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
There wasn't 6 million. Mm-hmm. Anything they can do to deny the Holocaust. I mean, anything they can do.
Particularly the Poles want to deny it, and they were the second only to the Ukrainians, the worst of the worst.
At von der Leyen and Ilya Kallas are going out of their way to create a narrative where they see Russia and Putin as the evil of the world that must be exterminated. So they're trying to raise an army to go in there and do it.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, it was the Russians that resolved the previous World War against the Europeans. And there were a lot of Europeans that joined the Germans in Operation Barbarossa. About 20% of the troops were from other European countries. And so it was the Russians that stopped the arrogance of the Europeans. And Russia's had it with them now. They are really, really done with them. They realize there is no negotiating with them. You can't resolve it. So all they're doing now is they have bottled up Ukraine. So they have bombed all of the railways and roadways in from Poland and Moldavia and every place else, and they've completely isolated and destroyed the port facilities in the Black Sea. And so Ukraine is a rump state. Can't export anything, can't import anything. Dying. And then they went and said, all right, so you decided you were going to blow up our retail distribution centers and our refineries and attack electric grids. And so here you go. Enjoy. Retribution.
Winter's coming.
And yeah, they got nothing right now. I mean, Ukrainians have yanking people off street corners that don't want to be in a defensive position. They have 2 people defending what it would require 20 to do. They have insufficient food, insufficient water, insufficient munitions, insufficient training, and the Russians are all over them. And the outcome of this war is so obvious, and it can't be negotiated at this point. So it has to be won.
Yeah,
the way the Russians are going about it.
There's a story that a new commander was just announced by Zelensky. He fired Zersky and hired this new guy. First thing he did was bring reserves in and started throwing them into the line to try to create some kind of news.
And the new guy they hired was one of those that was part of the Nazis of Ukraine. That immediately after the coup to overturn the popularly elected government by way of the United States and using American weapons, went off into the Donbass area and shot up a bunch of ethnic Russians. He said every Russian should die, and he's the new head of their military. My guess is he won't last very long.
Nope.
But Zelensky is not going to last very long either. Yeah, this is true. America's trapped. So here's a guy who just said, "Can you?" And the fellow that we're seeing just the top of his head there, he is one of the more patient, methodical spokespeople on the issues in both Ukraine and in Iran. He's a very thoughtful guy, and his basic pitch is the same that I'm delivering. America's trapped. It cannot even leave. You can't even leave. Because leaving craters the petrodollar, which destroys the United States. It cannot stay because the status quo is unsustainable and it's massively destructive. An escalation with an invasion or nukes is World War III, destruction of the world, and makes everything far worse. And now there is no opportunity for a negotiation because he blew that up. Nothing left.
What is going to be so bad that it's a distraction from the Iran war that make people forget that's even going on, or it's at a stalemate, or we lost it? What could possibly? I mean, we're past Epstein files. We've got the new Attorney General, so those are gone. They're erased.
That's gone.
Right?
Oh yeah, the Epstein files are gone. You will those files that have been hidden and not disclosed that are the most incriminating of Trump will never be seen. He hired his personal goon to destroy them, and he has given that goon clemency so that he will never be prosecuted for it, and they're going to destroy all of those files. So there's no reason to distract from the Epstein files anymore. So now what Trump needs to do is
just from Iran,
yeah. So now what he needs is distraction from Iran, and anything that's a distraction from Iran is a win for Trump, because Iran it's over for him. The Iran war is ultimately why he has to leave the United States in 2030. There's just nothing left for him.
Because the midterms are still months away, so we can't really ramp up election fraud fervor. I mean, the only thing he's got is, are we going to take over, Minneapolis is played out. Where can we send ICE to go, shoot some people and get some people in the streets and distract for a month or two, 6 weeks of ICE nonsense. Where's the play?
Internal chaos. Economic collapse.
Well, sure.
We'll bring in martial law, and you can taunt Americans to the point where because particularly Marxists are violent. So you can taunt the Marxists and the Democratic Party to the point that they will lash out, and that will justify his bringing in the military. And, America is going to be bloody. Yes, Roger?
I was going to say Rubio's counting on the whole Cuba thing to go down so he can be the governor of Cuba.
Yeah, right now he's prime minister of Venezuela, but that's not working out so well because Trump is stealing all of the oil revenue. They were unable to get any company anywhere in the world to go in and drill or maintain or restore any of Venezuela's oil capacity. So it's on fumes at the moment. And the money that is shipped out, which is negligible, I mean, it's in the tens of billions of dollars, but negligible by scope of a country and what it previously was, Trump is confiscating. So being prime minister of Venezuela is not a very good gig. Now he'd like to be prime minister, I guess, of Cuba, but that's not much of a gig either because there's nothing there either. I don't know what's going to happen with Little Marco, but Little Marco's should be feeling really shitty because diaper girl Ava Braun and the diaper bottom wiper, the butler, were chosen over him for protection. Marco had any character, he'd resign. Islam. Murdering people since 610 AD. And they actually started murdering people about 622. But that was when Muslims, well, not Muslims. That's when pagans from Yathrib came and bailed Muhammad out. Muhammad had been run out of Kaabaville in shame because of the satanic verses and because of the joke of a donkey mule ride from the Kaaba to the Temple Mount to go visit Allah after going through hell. And as a result of those two lies, he was laughed out of the area surrounding the Kaaba, and he looked for some place that would take him in. And he was told everywhere, no, you're a laughing stock. We don't want you. You're nothing but trouble. But there were 20 pagans from Yathrib that were off on some kind of an affair. And he met with them and they said, you know, you sound a lot like the Messiah that the rabbis and Jews in Yathrib keep on telling us about. He said, yeah, that's me. I'm the Messiah. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Well, then they'll be happy to see you. We'll bring you back. And I said, well, we got a little paperwork we need to take care of here. Here's the deal. In my religion, you are going to be terrorists. You're going to plunder and enslave and rape and rob for me and my God. I get 20% of the cut. You get to keep 80. And it's a special deal, special dispensation for you. Not only we're going to make stealing and rape legal and murder legal, we're going to make them celebrated. And so while you're doing them, you're going to be considered a really good guy for being a mass murdering rapist and thief. And if you get killed doing it, then my God is going to see that you are rewarded with multiple virgins in paradise.
That's the
So that's the
outcome,
deal.
right?
They said, "Oh, we're all in." Sure, sounds reasonable to us. We're all in. And they said, "It's okay. Then swear your oath." This is the pledge of Aqaba, and the pledge of Aqaba is we pledge to wage war against all mankind. That's the first year of the Islamic era. Muhammad then goes into Yathrib, which was 30,000 strong Jewish community, a farming community. He perpetrates apartheid and then genocide on the Jews. And then there was apartheid and genocide on all of Arabia. And then there was apartheid and genocide on much of the known world. That's Islam. Murdering since 622 in massive scale. 14 centuries of apartheid and genocide. And still it's insufficient to convince Marxists that Muslims are deadly.
That's a heck of a resume.
And I know the religion better than anyone on earth. You don't think so? Well, you go to yadayada.com, you read the 5 volumes of Goddamn Religion, and you'll know what I know.
I guess it's if you can't beat them, join them. Islam is the most murderous in history, and so and Marxists are only second place. So they figure if they can join together,
Yeah,
maybe they can.
yeah, they don't even need to do that, of course, because, well, Marxists are in second place overall. Marxists have had 100 years and Muslims have had 1,400 years.
Mhm.
And the last 100 years, Marxists are outpacing Muslims by a prodigious amount, such that Marxists have murdered, upwards of 200 million people in the last 100 years. So, they're surpassing Islam very quickly. They didn't need to associate with Islam to be more murderous.
And we're not giving Christianity a pass because they're called the Dark
No.
Ages because nobody wrote anything down. So there was plenty of killing that.
Yeah. Well, Christianity focused its hate and vitriol on one group of people, Jews. And so we have a special bone to pick with Christianity for dehumanizing and demonizing Jews for killing their imaginary God. So Robin is one of those pro-Israel accounts that I used to see every day, many times a day. And she's celebrating here that an Israeli police officer is taking down the Fakistinian flag and saying, no, you can't fly that piece of shit here. This is Israel, not Fakistan. And she's celebrating that. And, I can understand why she would want to do that. But what I'm here to say is that if Israel wants to survive, or if you as part of Israel want to survive the next 7 years, then you and Israel must condemn the lie of Palestine. You must direct your attention to condemning Islam. You must begin fighting this war with words and not with bombs. And you have to return to Yahweh. Now, the first step in the right direction for you, Robin, and for every Israeli is yadayah.com. Until you go there aren't enough police officers to furl enough flags. And you don't have enough bullets and bombs.
These must have been Jews that were flying the waving the palace. This interaction was entirely too nice. In the United States, someone would have gotten shot. These guys put their hands on cops. They got behind cops. I was like, wow, this is a really kind of how an interaction with police kind of should go.
There are two groups of Israelis that are traitorous to their own people. The Marxists, and a lot of Israelis are Marxists, upwards of 20%. And the Haredi, because they're anti-Israel, they're anti-Zionist. And so both groups are capable of promoting Fakistan. They're that stupid. They're that immoral. They're that caustic to the very survival of Israel. So I think your point is probably right. If it had been a Fakistinian, a Muslim, it would be, I kill you. That, in fact, that officer could not have walked up to them with both hands on the flag because they would have grabbed his pistol and shot him.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. Yeah, this is a textbook in Lebanon. They're talking about the great victory of Islam. I kill you. Beheading Christians and Jews. Islam has been a death cult, savage, inhuman death cult for 14 centuries. It is the greatest plague in human history. And the world doesn't want to deal with that. And what did Yahweh say about ignorance?
My people die because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the problem. This the museum that has the rights to this painting, owns the painting, had a conniption fit that it was used to present Muslims as slave traders, particularly of white women. And so they said, you can't use it. And the people that were using it said, oh, yes, we can. It's not copyrighted anymore. And it's a accurate historical depiction. And they also said there's 20 more like it. Islam was established based on the slave trade. Muhammad began enslaving his own kin. Then he enslaved Jews. And they didn't just enslave them, they were sexual objects. The women that were enslaved were raped by Muhammad and by his goons. Raped over and over again. Age didn't matter. And in most cases, it was even worse than that because these women had to watch Muhammad and his goons murder their fathers, torture and murder their husbands, and enslave their children. And then those same goons that had screamed Allahu Akbar as they did those things and destroyed their homes took them as sex toys and raped them over and over and over again, with Muhammad participating. This is the religion of Islam. And the children that they sold into slavery, they used to buy more weapons so they could do more terrorist acts like this. That is the truth.
Yeah,
it's irrefutable.
that's their heaven. That's what they do on earth, and that's what they expect for martyrdom.
Scum.
There's no more reprehensible peoples on the earth than that. That is as bad
No.
as it gets.
You know, I'm not sure. I mean, I have written 4,200 pages documenting the earliest Islamic sources showing that Muslims are savages, that they are pedophiles and rapists, mass murdering slavers, and proving it. And yet, I actually don't think they're the most vile people on the planet. I think it's the rabbis that sold the Talmud to them that created the Quran so the religion exists today. I think it's rabbis that are the most vile people on the planet because they're the source of the lie of Jesus and Christianity and the source of the lie of Allah and this horrible treatment of women. If it wasn't for the rabbis, neither of those things would exist today. So I think that if I can disagree with you here, I'd say that rabbis are worse than Muslims.
Agreed.
Well, the metric is no politics and no religion. So at the end of the day, in 7 years, it won't matter. I mean, who gets the worst place prize? It's going to be two options.
Yeah, it's going to matter
or,
to some. Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you too. You'll probably agree with me at the end of it, but I'm going to disagree with you too. The reason for judgment in the end actually isn't to decide who goes to Sheol and who stays dead, because those who were just played into being idiots are just going to stay dead. There's no reason to revive them for a trial, no reason to waste the energy to do so. The whole reason for the trial is to decide of those that are going to Sheol, which of them deserve what kind of recompense before they go. The men who treated a woman like this have to be raped.
Mhm.
I don't care if they're being raped by a broomstick. And their embarrassment, humiliation, and anguish has to be 7 times worse than they inflicted. So that is what we're up against, and that's what has to happen for. Wow, I don't want to leave the site, but we had a an issue here. So let's hope that we can get this back. Anyway, let's hope that that's where we had a message that was up here in the left-hand corner. Tried to close it and did bad things to everything. Every trial is going to be to determine. Thank you, Rich. How much retribution is handed out before they get sent to Sheol, and that's a job that we are going to have to oversee, and so we are going to prioritize the worst of the worst.
And the people that the bad things were done to have to know that that recompense is happening as well, right?
Correct.
I mean,
Yeah, they have to have
otherwise
closure.
it's point. Yes, yeah. That's
No,
the
it's
whole
not
point of it, is
pointless.
to give
No,
them
it's not
closure.
pointless. It's still pointed, and that God is fair, so that those who perpetrated this before being sent to Sheol, which is simply a black hole, where there no fires or no torture, just an internal prison, those being sent there have to pay a price for what they have done before they get sent there. That's the only way God can be fair. And of course, it is fair to provide closure for the women like this that were abused, so that they can see that those who abused them in this way were ultimately held accountable by God. So that is what we're going to do, and there will be a hierarchy. People like Eusebius, a name most people don't even know, is going to be in the top 10 villains of all time. Akiba, Maimonides, will be in the top 10 of all time. Paul, Luke, and Mark, all in the top 10. Muhammad, most assuredly. Abu Bakr, his BFF, will be in the top 10. Now, of course, you're going to have Hadrian, Titus, Vespasian, Adolf Hitler, Stalin. There's a lot of candidates for worst ever. And I want to know the rabbis personally who sold their Talmud stories to Muhammad for $1.
Right.
I got a real bone to pick with them. I want to have access to all of those early rabbis who let Paul get away with robbing Dode to create the myth of Jesus. I got a real bone to pick with you too.
You think 1,200 and what'd you say, 73 days on the Temple Mount's going to be long? That's going to be a long 10 days, man.
1250. 1250. No, the 10 days. First of all, there are a number of possibilities relative to these trials.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is that in the 3 years that we have our working vacation, that everybody who has died previously, we can just go ahead and take care of them before we return.
Ooh, that's not a vacation.
Get
It's
it done.
not even a little. It's not a working vacation. There's no vacating in any of that. That's work. That's the nastiest of the work, man.
Well, I'm here to tell you that 3.5 years is, when I say a working vacation, I think we just show up and say, okay, what did we get wrong? How do we correct it? What is your agenda going forward? How can we best prepare to meet that agenda? What would you have us learn? What did we miss that we just didn't perceive? I think that's how we began. So I think it is a great learning opportunity, which I think will be enjoyable. But then I think there's a time we take care of business. Now, the second option is that all of the trials take place at a similar period of time, and they could take place either in the 10 days between Teruah and Kippurim, or at the beginning of Sukkah. And if that were to occur, then what you're dealing with is all of the Shabbat. There's a reason that Yahweh calls the Choder a Shaphat twice, and he says that I'm assigning the Shabbat, the heavenly host, to him. So we could work effectively together where I say, all right, you've got the records, got the receipts. Everybody that needs to have resolution, that's soul that's died, that needs to witness these things, I want you to roust them. And every person who committed the crime that requires retribution, I want you to roust them. And I want you to be prepared to present all of the evidence. And then what you do is you say, all right, there are millions of these spiritual implements. You establish the guidelines. This is what we're going to do. And they can do it all. And our responsibility is to oversee the most important of those trials. Our responsibility is to go in and out of other trials and try to comfort the victims. You know, our job is to orchestrate those who want to be given those directions and to manage the process. But you could have 10,000 trials going on simultaneously.
Right.
And we could move all of these trials off planet. And if we move them all off planet, then time will move at the pace we want it to move. So we could get it done in a shorter period of time than 10 days, just because we could slow time. It seemed the same for us, but not for the rest of the world. So there are other options as to how that will take place. It's above my pay grade. I figured that I've read what Yahweh wants us to do. I know what he wants to do. I'm prepared to do it. And I think that we're developing a team of people that are prepared to do it. You know, I saw another family presentation last night. It had two marks in it. A mark from the UK and a mark
The international edition.
From South Africa, and two others, a husband and wife, I think, with the two others. And they were doing a Yada Yada book club. And I tell you what, it did my heart good. I mean, I don't know how we came up with this. I know how we came up with the idea that we should do this. And Roger, you've been a huge contributor to it. And of course, Kevin, you've been the biggest contributor to it because you're the glue that keeps it all together. But I remember coming with the realization that our job now was to prepare the Covenant family for this job. That's going to be our job. And the only way I could do that is to get everyone in the Covenant to earn God's trust so that he's willing to empower a team of people so that we can do this, because it's not one person. We're all responsible. We're going to do this together. And the only way that could happen is for others to step out and begin to speak. That's the only way that could happen. And so I came with that. Let's do this. And challenge people to do it. And now we have that family page. And then you see something last night like that, and you just go, boy, was this ever the right thing to do at the right time? It's the answer. And so you want to know, how can we do it? Because we have a family, a team that can do it. I would trust Roger to oversee 1,000 of these cases. I would. So would God. I would trust Rich and Kevin to do the same thing.
It's the right thing to do.
Yes.
In spite of how Yah was so frustrated with humanity, he still has compassion for his creation.
I listened to the two Mikes last night, UK Mike and South African Mike. I'd trust them too. You know, I was listening even to Shannon interview Perry. And when Shannon made a comment, what he revealed is that he's reading the current material, that he has processed it. He is listening to these vlogs. He understands exactly where we have gone. He understands how all of this fits together and how we are in this extraordinary place, growing together as a family. And the way he posed questions to Perry with that kind of insight, said, yeah, man, this is a man that has an outreached outstretched hand that everybody just views as, boy, he's a nice guy. He's devoted. He's caring. He's personable. He's a man that walks the walk. He's also a man that thinks the think.
Oh yeah.
You bet.
You bet. So this has been the best thing we've ever done.
Yeah.
So yes, that's how I think we handle it. But again, when in that process, God's going to do all of this, some of it at one point, some of it at another point. That's his call. Well, our job is to do what we're doing, prepare the team to do it, to understand enough so that we can exercise good judgment, so that we can process everything in accordance with what God would want us to do, so that the more of us become many me's, the better. Not talking about many me as in me. I'm talking about many me's in terms of Yahweh, projections of Yahweh's persona. That's kind of what we want to be, is projections of his persona. Yeah, I think we're just going to kill people. He actually said it. That's one of the most amazing things that I think I'd ever heard. And here, over a year ago, we announced that he's Satan. Satan incarnate. He's going to be the most deadly man in the history of the planet. And the man affirms that we were right when he says, I think we're just going to kill people.
I can remember a time not too very long ago where if a politician stood up and said that and it was broadcast, every newscaster in the world would be all over that. This guy isn't fit for the office. But now
he wouldn't. He'd be impeached the following day.
Yeah.
He wouldn't survive in office 24 hours. And now that's routine for Trump.
He's projecting his real intentions.
Yeah, he is.
When the psychopath tells you we're going to kill people, guess what?
He's going to kill people. He is killing people. Yeah, he told it that he was going to wipe out an entire empire. Going to wipe out every Iranian.
Yeah, this is the guy that years ago said I can gun down a man in Times Square and get away with it, right? I mean, he literally thinks he can do whatever he wants whenever I want to, and people are going to be okay. They're going to let me do it.
Well, because he's in league with Satan. But I'm here to tell you, he loses. September 24, 2033. You're a piece of shit. This is one of many reasons that I have no respect for this man. Nearly 90% of Palestinians supported October 7th, and they celebrated it, just as they celebrated 9/11. And Vivid doesn't have a clue as to why that's devastating for Israel. So long as you continue to refer to them as Palestinians, you lose. It's only when you refer to them as Muslims that you can prevail. When you refer to them as Palestinians, you feel like you're at liberty to use bullets and bombs. When you refer to them as Muslims, you'll know that you're restricted to words. And words are far more effective weapons than bullets and bombs. And you'll actually be destroying the actual culprit, the source of your misery. And the only way you're going to do that is to stop listening to this man and go to yadayah.com and read the 5 volumes of Goddamn Religion. They were written for you. I risked my life to deliver that message to you on behalf of God. Can you imagine being stupid enough to write Islam on top of the wolf in sheep's clothing? That you are so ignorant that you think that this applies to Muhammad and not to Paul, who was the Benjamite. How in the world could you be that stupid? How in the world could you listen to what's called the Sermon on the Mount and remain a Christian because it condemns Christianity in every which way?
Well, he was dumb enough to be a Muslim at one time. So
how in the hell Can you, under any circumstance, misconstrue the wolf in sheep's clothing to be any other than Paul, the author of the first 14 books of the Christian New Testament? And this is seriously deranged.
Have I got
Islam's
something
bad,
wrong?
but Islam is not the wolf in sheep's clothing by any stretch of the imagination. Islam is the spitting camel. Islam is the viper. Islam is the death cult of Satan himself. There is no disguising Allah and Muhammad. Paul wore the disguise. He pretended to be who he was not. He even said, to the Jew, I pretend to be a Jew. To the Torah observant, I pretend to be Torah observant, even though I'm not. To the Gentile, I pretend to be a Gentile. To all people, I am what I need to be to prevail. That's Paul. One that God himself said is the plague of death. Paul is the one who admitted he was a Benjamite. The Benjamite is the prophecy of the wolf. The wolf who dresses himself up as a lamb. It's Paul. This is Christianity. It's just astonishing that you could present this metaphor and pretend that it has to do with Islam. There are no sheep in Islam, and not even any wolves in Islam. There's no mention of a wolf or a lamb in Islam. It's a viper and spitting and biting camels.
Islam wasn't even around when Paul was around.
No, that Sermon on the Mount was talking about the wolf in sheep's clothing. Paul was around. Muhammad wouldn't be born for another 600 years.
Paul couldn't even get his own name right. I mean, his name is Shaul. It's, there's only one other name. Well, two other namesakes in Torah, Shaul the king and Shaul the place. So
Muhammad didn't either, by the way. That wasn't his name. He had a Jewish name. No, he was not. There's no one born named Muhammad. Now Muhammad's the most popular name in the world, but it was a phony name. Yeah, he did the same thing. Paul changed his name.
I remember that his wife calls him that when she says, "No, you're not a demon possessed. We can make good use of this. The profitable profit plan." Yeah.
Yeah, the profitable profit plan.
I forgot what her. Yeah.
Bye bye bimbos. So, KKK Barbie. Bye bye Barbie. Don't let the door hit you and tush on the way out. So what happened is Caroline Levitt, she was put out there like bait by Donald Trump. Donald Trump chose two people to be with him on the escape jet. Ava Braun, the diaper bag girl, the blonde with the diaper bag, and his personal valet, who was the butt wiper so that the diapers go on clean. He picked those two people to go with him. And he left his press secretary as bait on the other plane. And so when she heard what had happened, she walked right up to him, stood there while he was having a fight with another woman, and said, "I'm done. I have a child at home, two of them. I'm not going to be sacrificed for you. Bye." She's a vile woman. And of course, wore her cross so that she could identify Christianity with protecting a rapist and pedophile who happens to be Satan incarnate.
Well, that's the Christian thing to do. I mean, you look at what do popes do, that they protect the Catholic priests, the pedophiles. So it's a very Christian thing to do. It's not like it's outside of their purview. They just don't want anybody to know about it.
Carolyn Levitt. Used, abused, tossed away like trash. Who's next?
There's a post further down where, of course, the big issue for all of the women on CNN is Trump using the media, the hangers on, the media, the press pool that was with him as bait. Not once did they mention Rubio. I mean, these are cabinet level positions. The press sec. No. Those people. They're okay with them using as bait, but don't use the press pool as bait. They were very upset about that. And Levitt could care less about the press pool. Well, how did you? Me, it was all personal.
Yeah,
right?
it is. There's only one reason to even continue to talk about it, which is that, of course, it's incredibly embarrassing for Satan, and Satan does not handle embarrassment well. So the more you can embarrass him, the better it is for everybody. And the second, it's character defining.
Mm-hmm.
No leader ever does what he did. This is the diaper bag girl. She's got her diaper bag. She's at Trump's bedside virtually every night. She's the one that all of those, like the meme that had Trump dressed up as if he as a general sitting between or standing between Patton and MacArthur. The one that dressed Trump up as Pope. She's the one that presents him as the messianic figure and gives him all of the things that he needs for his tweets. So it was Trump who picked the blonde who prepares his tweets over the blonde who serves as the press secretary. And so the press secretary said, I don't need that shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
The diaper bag girl and the valet. We have to change the diapers and clean the bottom.
You know, with all this going on, I mean, this is what you call airing out your dirty laundry in a big way. What are the world leaders thinking about this? What kind of chuckle is Putin having over all this mess? And the rest of the leaders, Z.
You know, I think actually the likes of Putin and Z aren't laughing. They've worked very hard to put their countries in a viable position against a tragic foe in the United States. And to realize that the United States is now headed by a person of this lack of character puts them in a very difficult position because there's no negotiating, there's no solutions. They would like to be part of a peaceful world where people do business with one another, and that can't be done because of the scum that is president of the United States and the 77 million people that were stupid enough to vote for him. So I think they're sad. I think that's their proper reaction. It's just sad, disappointed.
Well, and they have to be on edge as well, because this is like dealing with this is a flailing death of an empire. This is a wounded animal. And so,
yes, it is.
But it's worse because you can't even tranquilize it. You can't even calm it down to let it die, quietly on its own someplace. It wants to lash out. It wants to, at everything.
It is a wounded, rabid animal. Mm-hmm. That has its access to the nuclear trigger. Yeah. And we now know that the military is so compromised that there are members of the U.S. military that will carry out not only illegal orders, but earth-ending orders.
Well, yeah, I wondered about that myself. Where was the suitcase when he was making this transfer? Did it get with him, or did it go on a different plane?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's not his decision. That's a Treasury Department. The Secret Service carries that. He could carry.
Yeah, Secret Service carries that, and the flights, of course, were all military flights. He went out on a standard military jet. Mm-hmm. Yep. Used everybody else as a decoy. Oh well, okay. That one that you found, you can probably find your way back down to it. Yeah, it's nobody knows God better than me, and nobody is loved more by God than me. Trump is scum, but he didn't post it. No. He didn't post it. It's but the nature of X is that because Grok doesn't do any fact checking, and Grok served it up, somebody else will just feed it and replay it, but no, it's just not true. He may know God is reasonably well. Satan does, not as well as I do or you do, but Satan knows God pretty well. But he certainly isn't loved. Hated, yes. Boy, I tell you what. Today I was updating the Debadim presentation of the NACAR, Debadim 29, for Coming Home 5, as I'm doing my rewrites and edits to it. And remember, I made the point yesterday that God can hate somebody for their present behavior, and they change and return to them, and he can embrace them again in a loving way, just as a parent can with a child. Boy, that is all over that statement. So that idea of, I hated Esau. Yeah, well, hated past tense, he did. But he's the legitimate heir, and God's got to rectify this fractured family. And he's the man that's going to be brought back to do it. So there you go. It's all over the place. So
Do you
God can
remember
love what he's previously hated.
Yeah. Do you remember Trump's musings? That someone asked a question and he just gets real glossy eye and poignant, and he's talking about, I don't know if I'll get into heaven.
Oh,
or
yeah.
not.
I don't know if I'll be admitted to heaven. I'd like to think so,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Yeah,
Right.
I know. No, I can assure you, you're going to hell, pal. Assured, absolute guarantee, pal. But not before we take out and have you suffer tenfold or sevenfold for all the pain that you have caused. And since you're going to cause more pain than anyone in human history, it's going to be
Yeah.
quite the ordeal. I mean, it could be 1,000 years before you end up in Sheol.
Mhm.
Could be that long. Oh, yeah. So Alexander Duncan says this is what you call a demonic idol worship. Yeah, it is. But how's that any different than swooning to a dead god on a stick?
Can show you pictures of the Vatican that look just the same way. I mean, you
Yeah,
got the
what's
Pope
the-
dressed
what's the
in gold
difference?
coming out. Mhm.
Yeah, what's the difference? Circulating this rock pile to rock gods and death cult, or the one that's the dead god on a stick that has dehumanized and demeaned Jews while robbing God of his beloved son and his name and his entire purpose. I think Christianity is a far worse religion than Islam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Idols are idols. I mean, the little girl that took the idols out of Egypt and hid them under her bed and everything. I mean, still got the same punishment. See ya. We're not dealing with any of that here. I mean, who was it? Rebecca that
Yeah,
stashed
blood on the
idols
idols.
as well.
Yeah, blood on the
Mhm.
idols. Yep, I'm sorry, but Rachel actually is
Rachel,
the
yeah.
one. But yes, correct. No, there's a lot of accountability. What's hard is to see how there can be much salvation, reconciliation amongst the early patriarchs. Abraham was
Yeah.
scum. So was Yishak. Jacob was a horrible person. Rebecca, scum. Rachel, horrible. Look at Yehud and all this crap he did. Benjamin, oh, even worse. The fall of the Lowy. It's just hideous. I don't know how, it's that's God's pay grade, not mine, to determine how he's going to handle those people.
It just resembles some kind of a massive evil mass hysteria.
Yeah, this is a mass delusion. Absolutely, they're running around a cube that was moved there nearly 100 years after Muhammad's death. That is a pagan religious shrine to rock gods. Yep, here we go. The twist-in MAGA for Satan. Boy, she aged tremendously, didn't she? That's early on in the process. That job was not good for her, but that's how she'll be remembered. The Christian cross and being a foul-mouthed, evil, mean-spirited propagandist on behalf of Satan incarnate, a rapist and a pedophile. and finally getting into a cat fight over the woman who changed his poopy diapers. She couldn't compete with the woman who drew memes for his tweets. Bunny wants to tell you that Trump is the worst dude in human history. Bernie. You know something, Bernie? This is hard to imagine, but it's true. That as bad as MAGA and Trump are, you and your communist ways would be worse. Now, that's hard to imagine, but the fact is, it's true. You'd be worse. The reason that Hillary lost to the worst candidate ever and that Cackles lost is because most Americans don't want to be communists. They would rather have to sit next to the devil than they would be communists. That says a lot, doesn't it? That's your problem there, Bernie.
I can remember growing up in communism. That was a real scare tactic where I
Of
grew
course,
up.
yeah.
If anybody was called a communist, that was a big deal.
Yeah, but the fact is that communism is a big deal. It is entirely destructive. It robs everybody of free will. It robs everybody of prosperity. It robs people of access to accurate information. Totally manipulative, indoctrinating, exceedingly violent. Yeah, it is. It's a horrible thing. It bankrupts a culture economically and morally. So yeah, communism is a terrible, terrible thing. Now it's being stacked up against Satan. So what you're playing here is that's KKK Barbie. They're having a fit while Trump is having a difficult conversation with a woman. So you got a woman there, and that could be the diaper woman for all I know. She's playing with her phone. This is, look at this tweet that I just gave to you, and so Trump is sitting there either in I think it's the helicopter, Marine One, Marine Two, or whatever they call it, but and having this discussion. Look at the finger that Caroline Levitt pointing the finger, and prior to that, the finger was pointed at her, and Trump is trying to referee in this blonde cat fight. This is immediately what preceded the resignation. So I don't know who the woman is, but we're dealing with the two people on cell phones pointing at each other in a very heated situation with Trump sitting there, either in the helicopter or I think it's the helicopter. I mean, it could be the limousine, either one. But wow, that is not a good look.
Oh, it is a dynasty. Who shot JR? Dallas. It is so.
Wouldn't you love to know? Wouldn't you
Real
love to
Housewives,
know?
that's
Look
what
at
that
that,
is.
where that gasping breath where she just went in, and then she's after that gasping breath, she's pointing the finger, and then look at the finger getting pointed back at her.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I would love to know what transpired in that discussion. just for the fun of knowing. Mm-hmm. So vivid. I can't wrap my mind around how many people around the world see Gazans as victims when they wasted decades and billions of dollars building the biggest terrorist tunnel network in history to kidnap and murder Jews. Look in the mirror. Vivid. And you'll know. Look in the mirror. Look at your posts. Look what you've done to destroy the reputation of Israel. That's why they do it. Vivid. You are the problem. You want to wrap your mind around the source of all of this? It's you. You're gloating over the destruction of Gaza. You're gloating over the destruction of Lebanon. You're gloating over the destruction of Iran. Your constant promoting of the existence of Palestinians. You're referring to the enemy as Hamas as opposed to Islam. You're touting of Benjamin Netanyahu when he's been your biggest problem. Your unwillingness to show any discretion, any humility. You are the problem, Vivid. You're the reason that Israel's in this horrible mess. You're the lead promoter of the agenda that has caused the world to hate Israel. And you've learned nothing. I can't wrap my mind around that.
Yeah, the kicker for me was always they live in the desert, a place where water is so very, very valuable, you know? And because Muslims hate Jews so much, they will dig up the water lines, the pipes that Jews installed for the Gazans, for Muslims to have water in the desert, to use those metal pipes to make rockets to kill Jews. That right there, I don't. There is no argument against that. That what do you do with people like that? You know, you can't. You just hit that point over and over and over all day long.
No,
we gave them water, and they dig up.
Okay, you want to deal with it? No, read goddamn religion.
Mm-hmm.
Hold Islam against them. That's how you deal with them. Read goddamn religion. There are 4,200 pages and 40,000 things you can cite to destroy Islam.
Yeah.
Cite them, know them, use them, wield them. Explain how that Al-Aqsa Mosque should be removed and destroyed. Explain how the Dome of the Rock should be removed and destroyed. Explain how 10/7 was nothing but a repeat of what occurred in Kabar 1,400 years ago with Muhammad. Tell the truth.
Explain to what
That has always been the answer, and they won't do it.
Right.
And if you want to have sympathy in the world, rather than showing the picture markers on sticks with the faces of the boys and girls that the Muslims killed at the Nova, have shot pictures of their mutilated bodies still laying on the ground. And to show all of it, and then do the autopsies and talk about the rapes and the mutilations and show evidence of it. That's how you would have prevailed. But you didn't do any of that.
They didn't even make an attempt till almost 2 years later. And then what they did was still watered it down.
Grossly inadequate. There's never been an autopsy released, nor any pictures at the scene other than what the Muslim shot on their GoPros. Israel bungled it all. They got played.
They got played with the playbook. They had the playbook. Yeah,
they were given the playbook and still got played.
They were given the playbook, yeah.
They still got played. And the whole purpose of Al-Aqsa flood was to taunt Israel into the destruction of Gaza because of what it would do internationally. And Vivid went right along with it, got played.
Well, the question is, does Israel realize that Islam will do whatever Islam can do to destroy Israel? I mean, are they still thinking they're being on the same playing field?
No, they think that they're battling against Iran and nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
And Hezbollah and bottle rockets. They have no clue that the enemy is Islam and has been for 14 centuries.
They were employing, the people of the kibbutz were employing these people to watch their children, to raise their children, to provide their food.
And the liberals of the kibbutzim blamed the Netanyahu government for the kidnapping of the Jews in the kibbutzim rather than hold themselves accountable for holding hands with the Muslims. There has never been accountability among Jews. They just don't do that. Yeah, I like this picture. We're going to kill your babies. This
Yeah,
goes so far
specifically,
beyond the
don't
debate.
sacrifice your children to Moloch.
Yeah. I, back in the Shattering Myths days, I would always talk about abortion as a winless issue. That we should all be pro-life and pro-choice, and that when you divide yourself into one side or the other on this issue and make it the defining issue of who you are, you're nothing, is what you are. And that there was no way to wade into this issue because both sides were wrong and both sides were right. This, however, changes that playing field considerably. Now you have to wade in because one side is dead ass wrong. And not only should we not grant women control over their bodies who couldn't control their bodies to the extent that they got pregnant because they were irresponsible. They didn't use conception, or they were irresponsible and had sex with an irresponsible partner. That they couldn't control their bodies doesn't mean that they now get rights that they didn't use earlier. Nor does it mean that the federal government or states should pay for their failure to have personal responsibility. Those things have always been clear to me. But when you're dealing with abortion in the third trimester, it's murder. I don't care how you want to define it. I don't care what you want to say. It's ghoulish murder. First degree murder. The doctors who perform it need to be sent to jail, convicted of murder and sent to jail. And the women who sign up for it, same thing. They ought to be sent to jail. It is a crime. And to celebrate it is so despicable that you want to vomit. So they have taken it beyond the realm where it was the subject that no one should engage in because there was no way to win. Both sides were wrong. Both sides were right. Now you got one side that's just dead ass wrong. And really, really revoltingly wrong. And there's 10 states that have approved this. This was the 10th.
It's sickening. And I've even read articles where they're taking those aborted humans to use for medical research.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you can look back at the history, Margaret Sanger introduced us, I believe, some time ago. And she was a big pro, let's kill them all person. She wanted to use abortion as an ethnic cleansing issue.
And the torture it inflicts on the unborn child is just staggering. And oh, by the way, you still go through birth. You just birth death now, as opposed to birth life. You're still going to give birth to that dead baby. And by the way, you'll never get over it. Ever. Nor should you. Jeffrey Sachs. Jeffrey Sachs is a Columbia Marxist anti-Semite. He was right on one subject and then wrong on most everything else. He's right on how America lied itself into the Ukraine war. And he's been right on that for a long time. It's just that when the Iran war came up and he had a chance to vent his anti-Semitism, he lost all credibility. But in this particular interview, he covers about 1% of the facts that led to the Ukraine war. And that's kind of a shame. He's a scholar. He should do better than that, and he can do better than that. But The fact of the matter is the United States caused this war. And it has blown up, and America can't resolve the war because it has no credibility and in diplomacy. And America is the merchant of death for the world. And it's a great travesty that not only does America kill and serve as the merchant of death for the world, but they like to blame everybody else for what they themselves are doing. And then, you have this, I can prove that China meddled in the previous election. No, you can't. In fact, the investigation said they didn't at all. And the reason they didn't, they could have, but they didn't, is they didn't see a benefit or a negative to them one way or the other with who won. And yet America meddles in everybody's political affairs. America has a conniption fit over false claims of meddling in its elections, while it is the biggest meddler in the history of humankind, which is what Isaiah said to condemn America.
Yeah, his premise is completely wrong. He starts with the idea that America didn't want a war. Not only did America cause this war, it planned and wanted this war from 30 years ago. I mean, it was just pieces after piece after piece being put into place to go to war with Russia, to kill Russians so they could get.
Yeah, he wanted to make himself seem like a big shot, like he was the big advisor, and that he was the voice of sanity, and they weren't listening to him, and that they told him there won't be a war, and then they told him, "Well, we'll win the war," and he went through it as if it was his personal travelogue. But no, you were a non-player in this, Jeffrey. Non-player. The players in this were George Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Biden, Victoria Nuland, the twin senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham, the CIA, the Department of Defense, the military-industrial complex. You were a non-player. Sorry, Jeffrey. You're a school teacher. I'll go sit down and shut up. So this has been, look at how red he's turning. I mean, he's kind of looking like Satan right now. Horns is all we need, and we'd have the confession for the man who has admitted that he's demon possessed. So he goes and has a conniption fit now. What he is saying that he is a demon possessed anti-Semite is that Russia and China are the only two countries where the political leader is more powerful than any business leader. I mean, that is so far from being true. But all red-faced, he's saying it like his audience believes it and like he believes it. So what are you going to be now? You're going to be a Marxist? Yeah, is that your thing? You're going to be a communist? Is that where you're going with this?
How much did
just stunning what has happened to this piece of shit?
How much did Elon spend to get Trump elected?
300, very large. 300 million. He's going to spend more than that this time around.
I would think that would buy a lot of influence. I would think that if Elon said, you know what, Trump, I think we should go nuke Iran, that Trump would say, yes, sir, for 300
guess
large.
what? Except what? When Trump tried, or Elon tried to cash in on his investment. To prove Tucker Carlson wrong. When he tried to cash in, Trump dumped him. He said, for that $300 billion, I kept you out of jail. I got you into the White House, and I want the following person put in as the chief of NASA. And Trump said, no, just to dick with you, I'm going to put in the other guy. And so that's when Elon had his tizzy fit. And he said, Trump's in the Epstein files, and if it wasn't for me, Trump would be in jail today. So Trump then starts to attack Elon. He does his normal Hannibal Lecter routine. And Elon absolutely does an El Foldo. He just does not have the horsepower to stand up to Trump, the exact opposite of what is claiming, of what Tucker is claiming here. And he does an El Foldo, and he goes back into kissing Trump's behind because his companies are gone without. If Trump does follow through and stop the U.S. government from doing deals with with Elon Musk companies, he's gone. There's nothing left of him. So the exact
Bezos?
opposite. Yes.
Bezos is a rich guy. He owns the Washington
Bezos
Post.
bribed Trump with the
Melania?
film. And what he bought for that is the Trump FCC allowing and the Department of War and others to continue to do business with Amazon and approve Amazon mergers and the like. The same thing was true with Larry Ellison. And what they got is mergers. And right after each of them did those things, by the way, they allowed their newspaper, in the case of Bezos, the Washington Post, to publish stories that were incredibly derogatory of Trump. And look at South Park after the mergers were allowed, mocking Trump. So Trump doesn't have, they don't have control over Trump, and Trump doesn't have control over them. It's and I don't know what he's talking about. Trump is a crime scheme operation, but it's not because there are oligarchs in America that have more control than he does.
Well, Trump is pretty smart putting Blanche in there, to the position he's in, because he can really field some of those deals.
Oh yeah, Blanche is a killer, man. Yeah, Blanche is the among the worst things that ever happened to America.
The new fixer.
Yeah, he is the new fixer, but he's the devil's fixer. That's going to be devastating. But I don't know. What in the world is he talking about here? He wants to go to a communist regime, and if you're going to have the head of state be able to dictate to any business person what they have to do, it's either a communist, Marxist, or fascist state. So I guess that's what the new Carlson platform is all about. Let's go fascism. Let's go Marxism.
Give him 3 weeks. He'll be. That burqa is not really such a bad idea. Mark my words. Tucker Carlson in 3 weeks is going to be. That burqa is not such a bad idea.
Yeah. And here he is. He's been bribed by a man that was enriched by American business enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is the new, you mentioned, in the new head of the Ukrainian military. And this is him in earlier days when he went in just to go kill ethnic Russians. And long before the war began, this is in 2014. I want to go kill some Ruskies. No Russian deserves to live. So there's what you got. I mean, it's hard to imagine a country more despicable than Ukraine. And not just now, going back centuries.
Oh.
It's the most despicable country in the vicinity of Europe is Ukraine. What they've done to Jews, for example. Their violence, their graft. And when Lindsey Graham and John McCain and Victoria Nuland and George Bush et al. Decided they wanted to use Ukrainians as a proxy against Russians, they really scraped the bottom of the barrel. And that's what we're witnessing now. All that money, all those weapons, and all it did is enrich thugs and made a bad situation worse. Turns out that if you're hiring mercenaries, the mercenaries are not going to be loyal.
Oh,
Who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew?
Rule number 1 of mercenaries.
They aren't loyal. Oh, yeah, here's Coke for brains. And I don't mean the Coca-Cola type. He is now professing that if U.S. provides 10% of its Patriot missiles, that Ukraine will destroy all of Russia's ballistic missiles.
A literal circus clown.
Is a literal circus clown. It just go, how in the world did Coke for Brains ever make it from circus clown to thief and mass murderer?
Mhm.
Now, at this point, the Patriot missile system has finished its service life. It had value against very dumb ballistics. If you shot a missile that had a ballistic profile and the early launch radar were in place, which most are gone now because of the Ukraine war, but if you got early trajectory on them, you could calculate a ballistic path, and 1 out of every 3 of these things would intercept that ballistic missile if it didn't maneuver and if it was on a ballistic trajectory. That was then. Now you have 3 things that defeat this. One is the hypersonic missile, because it arrives before this can even get ready. The second is the maneuvering missile, because it can't hit it. And the third is the cluster missile, where it just simply breaks in part and says, yeah, have at it. Take one of the 18 out, see if I care. And so it has no value anymore. And it was never any good at drones. And of course, they send in the drone swarm, and the drone is the preferred because the drone is so much cheaper. So it was never very good at drones, and it was, and it is no good on the upper end of the missiles. So its only value is against the cheapest and oldest missiles, but nobody is mass producing the cheaper and older missiles anymore. So it's useless. And what Ukraine is currently enduring is that every night the Russians will shoot 25 to 50 missiles and send an equal number of drones into various facilities. Like they took out last night Ukraine's ability to make and roll steel, which means that most of their weapon systems have no source of material anymore. And they, of them, 95% are striking their targets. And the advantage of them having none is that now you don't have to use all expensive, maneuverable, hypersonic missiles. You can go back to the dum-dums if you want to, because they've got no air defense. And Europe doesn't either. And the fiefdoms, personal estates with flags of the Arab Gulf states, they don't either. So it's just a turkey shoot.
This is reminds me of the stages of grief. Was it, hey, if you give, we need missiles, send us the Patriot missiles. Okay, well, just give us 10% of the Patriot. Okay, well, just give us the license to be able to make our own Patriot. You know, I mean, he's bargaining.
There are those numbskulls out there that are saying that the reason that Northrop Grumman and others just said no on the license for the Patriot missile is they were afraid the Ukrainians would make them more efficiently,
better,
and more swiftly than they could make them. You're talking about the Ukraine. The Ukraine is the most graft-ridden place on earth. They don't do anything efficiently unless it's stealing. And they have no sub-industry for any of the components, and they can absolutely not be trusted. And this is the kind of system where you can't contribute to this system unless you are an absolute secure resource, and there is no secure resource in Ukraine. They can't think it through, and they want to parrot that lie. It's an obvious lie, and they say it over and over again. It's the greed of Raytheon that's keeping the poor little Ukrainians from being able to defend themselves.
Right.
No. That is a boondoggle. That is a system that no longer has any value. It's
It's
already
20
been.
plus years old.
It's America didn't keep up, and America, in its infinite stupidity, continues to think that if I make something even more sophisticated, it will be better. And what it hasn't learned is the lesson that it should have learned in war games a long time ago, which is that when America put its latest generation fighter against the latest generation Russian or Chinese fighter, they were all giddy in how they had they would win more times than they would lose. Say, see, technology prevails, and the idiot will say, "Yeah, wow, technology prevails," until you realize that next generation American fighter cost 50 times more than the other counterpart, or that you could have 50 very good fighters for every one of the very fancy fighters, or that the very fancy fighters spend 20 times more in maintenance than they do in combat. And so when they ran the scenario again and said, okay, give us the same amount of dollars and we'll marshal X number of cheaper, less sophisticated, more reliable fighters against your one fighter, dollar for dollar. And every scenario, the fancy weapon is annihilated all the time, every time. And so this is America's thing. We go from the Patriot to the THAAD. Now, Patriots are a Patriot battery like this is into the billions of dollars. Well, the THAAD makes that look like a bargain. And so we just up the ante in sophistication, but the THAAD's no better at it than the Patriot is. And so it's America saying, we're going to take the clunker of the B-52 from the Vietnam War era, and we're going to put new engines on it, new radar on it, and boy, then we'll have a really swell enhancement. No. Pouring more money into making things more sophisticated just makes them less reliable and more expensive, and you bankrupt your country, and you can't afford the basics, like feeding your sailors, like toilet paper.
Well, this idea that drone warfare was some kind of big surprise to anyone happening in Ukraine is such crap, because I can remember watching videos of the jihadis years ago tying mortar rounds to DJI commercial grade, like buy them at Walmart drones, and flying them over American troops and dropping mortar rounds on them, and then playing the videos, right, free online for people to see this happening. And then the next thing was, well, we'll just jam those drones, right? We have the anti-drone signal jamming warfare, and then fiber optics come out, and now we got a problem, people. The fiber optic drones keep me up at night.
The photo navigation through maps comes out, and then they have all sorts of evading mechanisms where they change frequencies. So the drones will go out on a frequency, and every fraction of a second they change frequency, so you can't jam the frequency because it's always changing frequency. Yeah. Drones are cheap. They're effective. There is no defense system that really works against them. And so long as America continues to make expensive aircraft carriers and THAADs and Patriots and F-35s, and Israel continues to follow in that suit, you're destined to lose, because that's the past. It's countries like America and Israel are always prepared to fight the last war. Yeah, they could. America might even be able to win the Vietnam War now. No, probably not.
We had aircraft carriers in and still lost.
The only reason I could see Zelensky wanting those things is he's already got some black market orders for them, or he's going to repurpose them and use them against ground targets.
Oh yeah, he could use them beautifully as revenue to sell to the Gulf states. Yeah. Look at those bloodshot eyes. Cocaine.
Bargaining. I'm telling you. He's looking for a way out.
Oh, he doesn't. No, he doesn't have a way out. The only out for him is death. They'll kill him, and
Yeah.
should.
Oh yeah.
They'll kill him. Ukrainians are going to kill him.
The
Russians.
Ukraine. Yes.
Another distraction. Here we are.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're talking about the Trump cares more about the 2 diaper changers than he does about his own staff or the journalists. And she's saying, once upon a time, journalists would know that they were going into a war zone, and they would sign up and say,
Accept the
yes or no, I'm willing to do this. But in this case, they were not told. In this case, they were used as bait. And it is reprehensible. It is a nick on his character. But really, what difference is it going to make? He's looking for a distraction. He got another distraction. He needs a distraction away from the war.
Yeah.
The war that he can't end, the war that he can't even walk away from. There is
I've
a
gotta say-
video here. There is a video here that has a Chinese professor going through it. I hope it would be nice to see if we can find it, just so we could close the program by listening to a bit of it. Let's see. No, these are all reports of how bad the situation. There he is. We'll just listen to a little bit of this. I would like everyone to have just another voice to reinforce the fact that America has no options here. They cannot walk away. They cannot continue. They can't up the ante. They can't negotiate. There's literally no resolution for the mess that they have made. And the status quo is lethal. So there's no way out of the status quo, and the status quo is lethal. This is, in my pilot days, we learned about things called dynamic instability. And you recognize one of my airplanes was a Pilatus, as a T-tail turboprop. And if you stall that airplane, it goes knife edge, and there's no way to recover from a stall. So they have a pusher shaker on it that prevents the airplane from being stalled because there's no way to recover. That's what we're dealing with here. When I just say there's no way out, I mean, you can name every scenario in the world. There is no way out of this war. And ultimately, it's going to end up with millions of troops in Israel and the economic destruction of the United States and degradation of the world. So listen to him just a little bit. I think it's a good way for us to conclude.
So today I want to talk about something that I think is the most important question of this entire war. Not who is winning, not how many strikes have been launched, not what Trump said yesterday or what Iran threatened today. The most important question is this: can America actually stop this war? Can it negotiate a ceasefire? Can it withdraw? Can it find a way out? And the answer, when you look at it carefully, is deeply unsettling. America is trapped. It is stuck. It cannot go forward and it cannot go back. And today I want to explain exactly why, step by step, in simple, easy to understand English. So let us begin. Part 1. This war has its own momentum. The first thing you need to understand about this war is that once a war like this starts, it develops its own momentum, its own logic. It stops being something that politicians and generals control, and it starts controlling them. Think about Ukraine. That war started in February 2022. And from the very first weeks, both sides knew that a negotiated settlement was possible. Both sides knew that continuing the war was causing enormous damage, enormous suffering, enormous economic cost. And yet, 4 years later, that war is still going, still grinding, still destroying lives and economies, on both sides. Why? Because once a war starts, stopping it requires one side to accept something deeply painful, to accept loss, to accept humiliation, to accept terms that feel unbearable. And that is something most governments, most leaders find almost impossible to do. This war in Iran is going to follow exactly the same pattern. Neither side will concede defeat, even when it is clearly in their best interest to stop. And this war could drag on for years and years. That is not a prediction. That is a pattern, a historical pattern that repeats itself over and over again. But here's what makes this war even more complicated than Ukraine. Even if America wanted to stop, even if America decided today that it wanted a ceasefire, it cannot. Not because Iran will not negotiate, but because the terms Iran would demand would be so devastating for America that accepting them would be worse than continuing the war. Let me explain this trap very carefully. Part 2, the ceasefire trap. So let us imagine America decides it wants to negotiate a ceasefire with Iran. It picks up the phone, it reaches out through back channels, maybe through Oman or Qatar, and it says, let us talk. What does Iran say back? Iran says, fine, we will stop fighting, but here are our terms. First, America pays Iran approximately $1 trillion in reparations. $1 trillion for the destruction caused by this war, for the decades of sanctions, for the economic damage inflicted on the Iranian people. Second, and this is the critical one, America must leave the Middle East permanently, pack up its bases, withdraw its forces, remove its military presence from the entire region forever, because Iran's position is very simple. The only way to guarantee Iran's long-term survival is to ensure that America can never come back and do this again. Now, on the surface, some people might say, well, maybe that is not so bad. Maybe America should leave the Middle East anyway. But here is why that thinking completely misunderstands the situation. The moment America leaves the Middle East, a chain reaction begins. A chain reaction that will be catastrophic for the American economy and for American power globally. Let me walk you through this chain reaction step by step. Step 1, the GCC becomes Iran's client states. Right now, the GCC nations, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, they exist under American military protection. America guarantees their safety. America is the reason they can function as independent nations. The moment America withdraws, that protection disappears. And the only nation in the region with the military power to guarantee the safety of the GCC and to control access to the Strait of Hormuz is Iran. So the GCC nations have no choice. They become client states of Iran. They fall under Iranian influence. They have to make their peace with Tehran because without American protection, Iran is the only game in town. Step 2, the petrodollar collapses. Now here is where it gets really serious for America because the GCC is not just a collection of oil-rich desert nations. The GCC is the foundation of something called the petrodollar. And the petrodollar is the single most important mechanism keeping the American economy alive. Let me explain this simply. The GCC sells its oil in US dollars. Every barrel of oil that Saudi Arabia sells, every cubic foot of gas that Qatar exports, it is all priced and sold in US dollars. That means every nation on earth that needs Gulf energy, which is most nations, has to hold US dollars to buy it. That creates a permanent global demand for US dollars. And then the GCC takes those dollars it earns from selling oil and recycles them back into the American economy. It buys American treasury bonds. It invests in American financial markets. It funds American debt. This is the mechanism, this petrodollar recycling that allows America to function with $39 trillion in debt. $39 trillion. The American economy is essentially a Ponzi scheme. It relies on foreign nations continuously buying US dollars and US debt to keep functioning. And the petrodollar is the engine that drives that entire system. Now, the moment the GCC falls under Iranian influence, what happens to the petrodollar? It disappears. The GCC no longer has any reason to sell its oil in US dollars. It no longer has any reason to recycle its earnings back into American markets. The entire foundation of American financial power collapses. And remember, America is sitting on $39 trillion in debt. Without the petrodollar, without foreign nations continuously buying US dollars, the American economy cannot service that debt. It cannot function. The consequences would be catastrophic. Step 3, Japan and South Korea remilitarize. So now let us look at what happens in Asia when America withdraws from the Middle East. Japan and South Korea are watching.
I just think he's wrong here. He gets back on track, but he's been absolutely right. I don't think that his delivery creates the level of concern that America should recognize. That America saying, well, then we're just going to leave, literally assures the imminent and total collapse of America economically. And America is nothing without its economy. It will destroy the dollar. It will destroy the reserve currency status of America. America can't finance anything, can't pay any government employee, can't fund its military, can't do anything, can't pay for socialized medicine, can't pay for Social Security, can't fund its debt, bankrupt. Total collapse of the United States is what is now absolutely imminent because there is no way to end this war. And America can no longer and has not provided the security services that went along with the petrodollar scheme. And Iran is now the hegemon of the region. And they're not just going to have influence. Their first influence is going to be, you can't sell oil or gas in dollars and exit the Gulf of Hormuz. You want to go through the Strait of Hormuz? You sell in yuan. That's what they're going to do. And so it's over at that point. So when he goes and talks about Japan militarizing and Korea militarizing, Japan's not going to militarize. They have no money. They're broke. Mm-hmm. And there are not enough Japanese now to make a difference. Japan's part of history, not part of the future. And South Korea has more problems than it can deal with just with North Korea. They're not looking for a fight with China. Neither of those countries want to fight with China. They would get creamed, and they know it. So this Japan and South Korea is a bunch of nonsense. But you don't even need to go to the next point because America is no more. Now, he'll talk about, well, why not up the ante and invade? But that's the trap. 500 becomes 500,000 troops, and America doesn't have 500,000 troops. And to occupy Iran, it would take millions and millions of troops and a willingness to have 500,000 of them die. That's the kind of number you should be looking at. For what? And even then, it wouldn't solve anything. So there is no escalation that's going to work. You invade and you have World War III. You invade or you nuke them and you definitely have World War III. So you can't escalate. You can't continue the way you are because you're out of munitions and it hasn't worked and it's been counterproductive. You can't walk away because you abandon the petrodollar system. You can't afford to stay. You can't afford to go. And what he is saying here with the land invasion is just the opposite, which is that America has these supercomputers that it games every war scenario. That's the reason why I keep on saying that the only survivor of a war with China and when they game war games against China is the boomer. And if the boomer is deployed, it's the end of the world. So there is no survivable scenario with the U.S. military in China. Well, every time they play a war game with Iran, with an invasion, America gets creamed. There is no solution that will work. And it just makes everything worse. So you can't negotiate because they're not willing to negotiate. This idea, sure, we'll talk And these are our terms. We already tried that, and they're not going back to that.
Mhm.
So there is no negotiated solution. There's no winning the war. You can't even lose the war. They won't let you lose the war. And walking away is the destruction of your economy and the dollar. What Trump did here is assures the imminent and complete destruction of the United States of America. And there's almost no one that's talking about it in those terms.
Mhm.
And when you are that injured and sick rabid animal that's lashing out at the end, as you described, it becomes very scary for everybody. And really, really horrible things happen very quickly. And that's the stage we're at now. It's a sick, wounded animal lashing out at everybody, pooping in his pants. I mean, this is really horrible. And everyone's going to be distracted on this, that, and the other thing until the Ponzi scheme of the U.S. economy collapses. And it's all a Ponzi scheme. It's all based upon religious belief. And there's no viability to it anymore. I mean, it's literally over. I can't tell you if that's going to be in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. But I can tell you within the next 5, America's done. That should be the number one story, shouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Not all the little distractions. That is the story we're at. Is the imminent, certain implosion of the United States as a result of the stupidity of Satan. No way out. He played Russian roulette with every chamber of the gun loaded. And rather than pointing it at his own head,
Oh,
he pointed it at America's.
Mhm.
That's what just happened. So stop it with the bobblehead girl. Stop it with the ballroom, with the reflecting pool, with Iceland, with our Greenland, with robbing Venezuela, with the catering cart caper. This is the reality of our situation. Now, the reason it is so desperate beyond all of this is that our mission is not to protect America. Our mission is to protect Israel, at least a remnant. And Israel's going to be betrayed in this very shortly. And the betrayal of Israel is going to cost millions of Jewish lives. And it's inevitable too. And ultimately, the prophets have said there'll be millions of Iranians that march into Israel to rape and plunder Jews. That's how serious it is that we're up against. So, there are times when I get a little heated and frustrated over what people are saying and doing, but that's what we're up against. This is a
Stakes are real.
deadly situation.
Mm-hmm.
But other than his little distraction here and the fact that he just passed over, oh, by the way, the America is done, and then he went on to Japan rearming as if that was of concern. America is done. There is no Japan. America is done. There is no South Korea. It's too interwoven. America is done. Don't go to the next point of your little trap. It's over.
Oh, the wounded animal. I mean, people talk about Cuba, viably being the next distraction target, whatever. Cuba, heck, Canada should be worried. Mexico should be worried. What happens in
because
6
of the
months,
collapse
8
of the
months
United
when
States?
Americans are
We'll
hungry?
take Canada and Mexico down. That is correct.
Uh-huh.
And I think we also need to get beyond the distraction game. You were correct when Trump managed to get Republicans to authorize Blanche to be the Attorney General. There is no need for distraction on the Epstein files anymore. The Epstein files are a non-event. And so the issue now is strictly the Iran war and the consequence of that in terms of its devastation of America. And what most people are unaware of is that, and he doesn't mention here, but it's that China and Russia don't want this to happen. They don't want America to implode. I had slides here that we may have slipped over, or there may have been from older we just never got to, that shows China's holding of U.S. Treasury bonds. And then it shows China's increased position in gold. China still holds twice as many dollars in U.S. Treasury bonds, even though it has cut its position by 50%. It still holds twice as much in Treasury bonds as it does gold. The collapse of America would be deeply, deeply painful for China. And it would even be deeply painful for Russia, and it does no business with America other than it sells it uranium and other kinds of things like that, potassium. But no, America going down destroys Europe, Australia, Japan, Korea. And it may not devastate China, but it will have a very, very depressing effect on China. They want America to decline in power slowly, not rapidly. And what Trump is doing is, and this Iran war is rapid. That's why Trump is so crazed about it, is that there is no scenario where he can will it to a solution where America even survives it.
Yeah.
It's way beyond not being able to win it. Yeah, America can't even survive it. Well, I was serious when I said, you do this and it'll be the end of you. And that sounded, I'm sure, over the top at the time. And may even sound over the top now, because most people are so caught up in what's called the normalcy syndrome, where they can't imagine that tomorrow can be that different than today. But it will be.
Until you can't find toilet paper, and then it's, oh no, right?
Oh no. Yeah, it's going to be radically different each day going forward. And America is over. There is no way out. There are lose-lose games. And when the consequence is the world's economy and the United States of America, that's frightening. And understand, too, that the nature of what happens when a wounded animal is embarrassed and they're this psychotic, this egomaniacal, and their decisions have destroyed the country. And there's no hiding from the fact that the country is gone economically. What does a psychopath do on the way out when they're embarrassed like this?
No, take everybody.
They will try to take as many other people down with them as possible. How do you do that today? You push the button on the nuclear bombs. And I'm quite convinced we don't have enough good men in the military to stop him.
Yeah.
You know, when you read the volume 29 of the arrival of the NACAR, it says that he's going to arrive in conditions that are very similar to Sodom and Gomorrah. And then as a result of that, there will be a rain of fire and brimstone, which is a nuclear holocaust. So we're going to do our best to warn people, and we will ultimately save the planet, but barely. That sounds like a little over the top doom and gloom, Roger. Or what'd you think about the professor's talk?
Well, he knows his stuff, and he's right. He's right there with it. You know, you're right. It's all headed to one place, and we can't stop it. It's going to happen. All you can do is prepare for it by going to yadayada.com. That's the bottom line.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line.
Yep, and we're not asking anything for you. Everything there's free. The books will even talk to you. The vlogs. You don't have to listen to me. You can listen to the family page. You can learn whatever you need to know. exactly where we are, where we're going, and how you can get off this blue marble alive. And you can join us, but boy, you're going to have to get your act together now if you're going to do that, and you're going to have to be really serious about it. So that was a sober way to end the program. What do you think there, Kevin? Would you agree with his assessment? Do you think he's over the top?
This guy? No, I absolutely. We know that on 2030, what the conditions are like. We know who the players are when they step into Jerusalem, right? Prophets have told us all these things. So
Yes.
this isn't over the top at all. I'm surprised it's taking so long. You know,
Yes.
That's what surprises me more than anything else is it's taking so long that it just feels.
Yeah, look
like
at
this.
the timeline too on that presentation.
Mm-hmm.
The United States of America is destroyed. He's 6 minutes and 34 seconds into a 19-minute, 49-second presentation. All to tell you, point number 5 is there's no way out.
No way out. Yeah.
There's no soft landing that everybody would rather have.
No.
He's painted us into a corner where
This is the Hindenburg.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Hindenburg. This is the Titanic. And the difference is on the Titanic, there were enough lifeboats to save, 20% of the passengers. That's not going to be the case this time.
No.
It's more like the Hindenburg, where there'll be 2 or 3 souls that jump and survive out of billions. There is no way out apart from yadayah.com. So, Roger, thank you. Thank you for your continued shows. I like Roger's. I like your deep dive. I just think it's a wonderful presentation. It's consistent, better, deep, meaningful, credible.
It's a pleasure to be able to do it. Really.
Yeah, definitely. And boy, you're surrounded by lots of people that are really good people doing the right thing too. Boy, we can see the size and the quality and the depth of this family is more than what any of us anticipated. I think that's got to be your response too, isn't it, Kevin? Seeing all this up close.
Oh yeah, it was out of nowhere. 2 new episodes of a program I'd never even. Hey, how do I get these on the family page? Show up in my email. I'm like, well, fantastic.
Yes.
Let's get going. Let's get this thing.
Wow.
I was
Yes.
like, I like that.
Yeah, I have somebody that's
Give me more.
that's heading a
Give me more of
program
that.
that's from the UK, and he is very articulate. The mark at the bottom of the screen, Watsy, I had seen and heard in other programs. I don't think I've ever talked to him personally, but I know him. And here he is leading a program on where he is totally dialed in.
Come
Let's
on.
go.
Absolutely.
Wow, this is so much more impressive than I had thought.
Mhm.
Really gratifying. So there is good news among the bad. Although this Professor Zhang doesn't have that answer, we do.
Mhm.
There is a way out. Yada,
Listen,
yada,
learn,
com.
live.
Listen, learn, and live. All right, everyone. We'll talk later this afternoon when we go to the 34th Mizmor. There'll be a lesson there for sure. Good day.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.